Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Well, Mike, I figured we might as well do a little bit of work, this week.
Yeah, right.
No, ain't nothing really going on in the pool world after all. You know,
No, not much.
yeah.
Not much.
You doing all right, man?
Yeah, good. Good. Everything's good.
let
Not going on.
let us know in the chat if you guys can hear us and see us all right. MV says hello. Hopefully you're doing all right. World Championships, Mike. It's been an interesting start to the World Championships. It's going to be an even more interesting afternoon, and we're going to dive into the beginning. We'll dive into who's qualified, and then those who are fighting to stay alive. But off the bat, Mike, I want to get your thoughts on just the event. In the grand scheme of things, and what are some of the takeaways through the first couple of days?
Well, first, the main takeaway is how difficult this field is. How
Yeah.
guys who are losing, and there's surprises, but just nothing surprises you at this point because there's so many players who can win any of these, win a match against anybody. And we saw that with Ian and Josh.
Yeah.
It just it's a different animal when it gets into this stage with this money and this kind of prestige and this kind of pressure, and everybody's fighting like tooth and nail. It makes for some really really good matches, and we've seen a lot of. Losers qualification. You look at the losers
It's
qualification.
unreal, Mike.
It's only two matches into the tournament. It's like killers, murderers row, which means that those guys who got through winners, a couple of them are going to pluck some really unfortunate draws at that last 64.
Congratulations, right? You're gonna get you probably got a good chance of getting a month.
Congratulations, you get Josh Miller in the round of 64.
Well, I mean,
enjoy your
aren't we all rooting for like Federer to draw Filler in the round of 64? Isn't that the one that we want to see have happen? Or we're getting too far ahead of ourselves here. I digress. Mike, let's on that note, Mike, what are your thoughts and what do you credit like some of these I don't want to I mean there's been upsets for sure starting on day one, but like has the gap just closed that much more between the rest of the pack and the top tier guys?
I think it's always been pretty, the last couple of years it's been pretty tight, and maybe it is getting tighter. I just think this event just seems to be, from being there last year and watching it so far this year, that this event just seems to be a little more, the underdogs seem to fight a little bit harder, and the favorites just seem to be a little bit tighter. And I think it's the size and the scope of the event that kind of catches up with everybody. It gives more incentive to the underdog and puts more pressure on the heavy favorite than it does to me, second round of the Spanish Open or the European Open or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So that could be part of it. Who knows? But there's more, big drama early here than in your normal major matchroom open, right? You can just feel
especially through two rounds, Mike. And I know we talked about this during the preview show, but I think a lot of it just factors into the consistency of this format and the break and how players have really committed to full time. And I know there's other avenues to go and play pool, whether it's 8-ball or 10-ball or 8-ball, whatever. But like this has been the 9-ball game for the last few years, and so mastering this break and guys that are getting tuned up back at home on 4-inch pockets, I think for me has closed the gap quite a bit. But plus there's just that, I think a little bit is to what you said, maybe the younger, lesser names or maybe free rolling a little bit where there's more pressure on these bigger guns to go and compete. It's hard to really commit to it just because I've seen I've seen those guys just rise to the occasion time after time. Now from a sports standpoint, I love it. I love seeing these new guys kind of have upsets. We talked about the Vietnamese at the during the last show, and we kind of, I don't want to say had written them off, but certainly didn't like their chances to even win their opening round, and they came to play in this tournament, Mike. I mean, all of them. I
Yeah,
think all of them won their opening round, but a few of them are already through. But the end comes to mind, taking out SVB in round number one, following that up with a solid win over Dennis Grabe and a lot of other guys, Huang, which we expect. Just so many talented
yeah,
guys that we know, like we know they got the skill set, but we just haven't seen them on bigger stages. Well, now they're showing that they're prepared, they're ready, and they're ready to give anybody a fight. And for that matter, it's the same with the Europeans, Mike, like you mentioned in Uski and Pillar.
yeah. Well, no, it's the the Vietnamese have played great. Obviously, we kind of expected the Filipinos
Yeah.
to show up here. There's 10 through the final
They started
64.
with 17, and yeah.
Well, I mean, and there's more that could come
Yeah,
out of the losers
absolutely.
bracket, but just there's 10 that have won their first two matches, and a couple of them, Bernie Regulario taking down Co, and
AJ beating
uh,
Yap, Mike.
AJ taking down Yap. Yeah, I mean that's these guys. These are another group of guys who came to play.
Mike, I'm putting a
So
lot of weight on that Yap AJ match. I mean, a lot of weight. I think I always have been I don't want to say a little harsh, but just like I think the kid was just too prematurely crowned because of his social media presence, and for me, you don't get respect based off of a following. You get respect based off of results and taking down big names. And it doesn't get any bigger of a name than a TV table of a world championship when you're facing a guy who's as hot as Aloysius is right now. For AJ to
yeah,
for
yeah,
AJ
no,
to go out and play the way that he did, the poise and the pressure that came with that match, and for him to perform in that manner, Mike, just completely changes the way that I'm viewing that kid. And I know, like, everyone's been super high on him, and I get it. You know what I mean? I saw him in Hanoi last year, and he had some really solid matches. But this is where you earn respect in that locker room, and it's with taking out big names like that. And I tell you what, I mean, all the Filipinos are obviously going to be dangerous, but that matchup right there with AJ is as strong as any semifinal or final you'll get to in any
no,
tournament.
that was AJ. AJ had a good run, good tournament last year at the World Championship. So yeah, he's and obviously he's got another year under his belt, and he's just getting better and
Yeah,
better and more confident. You can just watch. You watched him during that Yap match. He didn't look at all overwhelmed by the moment for sure. I mean, obviously. So he's doing great. Um, we were talking the other day about we looked at the betting
yeah.
favorites. Um, you know, 3 out of the top 5 betting favorites are in the losers bracket,
So Filler,
right?
Shane,
SVB, Josh, SVB,
yeah,
and Co.
yeah,
Co, Shane, and Josh. 3 out of the top 5 betting favorites are playing out of losers bracket. So,
and
it's
it's
just
been it's
it's
been that kind of
anybody's
tournament,
game out
Mike. I mean, Jonas, who's been, as hot as anyone on the circuit on loser side, David's on loser side, and we'll get to all the guys who are fighting to stay alive here in a little bit. But yeah, it's been a fun tournament in that regard. I love the uncertainty of it. I love that we're just getting this new wave of player that's like kind of making their own, getting some room. You guys give me some room over here. Give me 3 feet
there.
over here. So, and there's been
Yeah,
quite a few to go and talk about. And V says Robbie with the 5. Mike, I think that dude probably picked up at a minimum a split of 10,000 on day number one. That's 5's going to be hard to beat
yeah.
going to
It's
9, let alone
I
anything else.
yeah. Just how many people are going to have 5?
Yeah, exactly.
Is what you wonder. Is he going to split it with 4 other people or not? But yeah, it's going to be pretty tough to beat 5.
We'll jump into the guys who have qualified here. But before we do, Mike, I want to just talk about the event in terms of, audience doesn't look that strong being out there. I know today kind of picked up a little bit. compared to yesterday?
Audience.
There's been a few.
Well, part of it is that section of white seats right in front of the main table is all reserved for officials
Oh, okay.
and special guests, right? So that's why you don't see anybody sitting there. So if you looked around a little bit more, there'd probably be some more people sitting up on the fringes, on the edges. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't touch those white seats last year.
Oh,
So
really, Mike?
it's yeah, no, it just kind of so they just hold them off to the side for these guys, and they're front and center. So it's the first couple of days they should narrow that down to maybe about a VIP section of about 10 seats
It was kind of
and,
like that.
and open the rest
It was
up.
kind of like that in Hanoi, Mike, where they just had this big upper deck section that was
Yeah, well,
blocked off.
Hanoi, it's all upstairs, so that's
Yeah.
a little bit different. But this is, you got your prime seats front and center, and there won't be anybody in them until the finals. You can already
Well,
book that. Won't be anybody in them until the finals. And so I think maybe they missed an opportunity there to say, okay, let's assume that nothing's going to happen to the finals. Let's section off a smaller block for VIPs who may come
Yeah.
on Wednesday or
Yeah.
Thursday or whatever, and fill in the rest of these seats and make it look a little bit decent. So I don't know.
Well,
It's not the best look.
yeah.
And it's quiet as a church in there too.
Yeah, I mean they got the you got the music in the background, that's kind of trying to create some kind of vibe. So I got to give them credit there. The like for it looking a little more empty.
Saudi rap or what is it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a little soft soft club beat in there, So but yeah, look, the venue looks beautiful. Everything looks top shelf, and I wouldn't expect anything less from the Saudis. A lot of comments in the chat about Albin just getting smoked by Sale. That'll be a big that one. I was a little like tough to gauge in terms of it being on TV table, but if she's up 5-1 on Albin, Jesus, Albin, what do you got to get it together a little bit, buddy. Mike,
you better tape that because Albin on tilt is as entertaining as it comes.
Yeah, put a microphone on that guy right now. Mike, WNT TV. Let's just get it out of the way. Because you just at this point you can't not talk about it. There was just too much going on in the first at least day and a half. Day and 3/4.
Yeah, it's it's a problem. Thinking about it, but they got it fixed. It was halfway through the second day. As long as there's no glitches from here on out, it's one of those things you just got to write off. But yeah, it was not a good look on the first day, and part of the problem that we talked about kind of behind the scenes was get out in front of it.
Yeah, own it.
Don't just respond to people who are saying something. Put your own post out there and just say technical difficulties. Sand got into stream wires, whatever it is. But just get out in front of it and let everybody know. Yes, we know we're working on it, and it just that will calm a lot of people down, and it will just stop a lot of people from piling on. So yeah, I think they could have handled it a little bit better, but the main thing is get it working.
For sure. In terms of the fact they got it working, and they for damn sure better make sure that everything's smooth sailing from here on out, because it's about to get real interesting. Every match is going to be big in terms of so many aspects, Mike, whether it's Mosconi Cup that you're looking after, or Reyes Cup, or of course winning the big 250,000. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to say they could have done a little better job. I think they completely shit the bed when it comes to communicating, and there's I don't think there's any other way to put it when it comes to my thoughts on it. Look, communication goes such a long way in buying patience with people, and I was really like, you saw responses in posts that aren't even anything to do with WNT TV. It was like Shane's, out on the first round, and there's 50 comments about, WNT TV, and they're replying to them, but it's like you could handle that with just one post on its own. And then I think it was yesterday during the afternoon, the SVB match against the Filipino gentleman, which I don't remember his name, but they started showing Chua in. It was basically a replay of the morning round, and it kept on, like, you would click on it, it would show like 5 seconds of Shane's match, and then go right back to the replay. And I had to go into YouTube, and I went into YouTube just to kind of sweat whatever table four was, And so I'm in there
Yeah.
and I'm just checking it out, because that was really the only other matchup that I wanted to go and watch. And it was in the YouTube chat where I saw them say, "Hey, go refresh because table one should be working now." Well, it's like, well, what about everyone else who wasn't on YouTube, who had no idea that now the problem was resolved, And for
Yeah.
for them to be so heavy when it comes to social media and on all platforms, I think it was a huge missed opportunity there. I think they could have handled
Yeah.
it much better, and it could have been it didn't need to end up the way that it did, so yeah. But anyhow, like I said, it's been working. Today was been great. I've been sweating a lot of the matches. Got up at 5 a.m. this morning. I'm, checking scoreboards and going through tables 2 and 3, and it's been great to be able to sweat like different parts of the tournament. And I think, like, the reason why fans were so fired up from this is because from the beginning, even matches that we thought were not going to be competitive, the underdog that we had as underdogs ended up coming through and winning outright, Mike. Those matches were very compelling, and they were
Yeah.
tight through 10, 12 games in. You know what I mean? And so, like, if they were whitewashes, and to be fair, we got whitewashes on table one, 9-0, 9-1, 9-2. But it's like, because those matches were so competitive and compelling, it's like that just further fueled the fire of, I want to see what the hell's going on. You know what I mean? I want to know, like, how did that gentleman, beat how did the end beat Shane? All these little things. So um anyhow, round of 64 will be finished, or we'll be down to 64 players after today, Mike. I want to transition, if we can, to the guys who have made it through, and give me some standouts, Mike, for you, that have kind of maybe been a surprise, or maybe not so much of a surprise, as far as players who are already through to single elimination.
I have to take a look at the list again.
Got a bunch of Filipinos in there, Mike. AJ, like you mentioned, Anton, Bernie,
Yeah,
Carlo,
10 of them.
Kachi with
10 of them.
Kachi with a great win over Chris Melling, and Chris is the dangerous out, and Kachi with a nice comeback win in his former champion in FSR. We mentioned Uski, going through and beating Filler. Shaw with a win over Max Eberly to go through, Mike. There's a lot of guys who we expect to be there, but a lot of surprises as well, Mike.
Yeah, some surprises, some not. I mean, guys who you're not, maybe you depends on who they drew, but like an Anton Raga, a Robbie Capito. I mean, are you really surprised that they won 2 matches?
Right. Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. So FSR, no surprise. No surprise there. Oi, 2 good wins for him. So, for me, part of it is how guys have gotten through.
Yeah.
I mean, watching Chua in his first 2 matches was scary. It was scary. And Kwok, he ran
9-1 Moscow.
Like he was there. Yeah. So, it's, to me, a lot of it's about how some of these guys are winning. Those 2 guys, Chua looked ridiculously good.
You talked about at the last show, Mike, of like not wanting to peak too high or get a win too early, and with Chua, it was like that was that catch-22 with winning that night shot open, but I agree 100% with you, Mike. I mean, the guy looked just, guns a-blazing in his opening round matchup. And it was like, it was the fashion in which he won. I thought there was early chances for his opponent, but it was like, man, he just looked ruthless, Mike. And he looked like he was in pure form. He didn't look uncomfortable. It was just so many things. The Huang one was, I agree with you, Mike, telling. Beating Maciel 9-1 in an early round of a tournament, that's as solid as you can get, Mike. And these as much as you can crown these early round victories, it's like you want to just gauge, okay, well, how are they, and how do you think they're going to fare as the tournament progresses. And if you haven't been tested yet, like maybe a guy like a Federer, right? Went over Sam Henderson, went over Frank. It's like you haven't really been tested. But when you get a guy like Huang who gets through two
Yeah.
solid wins, like you mentioned, Max as well, Mickey. I mean, so many guys, and there's like a good mix of like usual suspects.
Max, Mickey, and Moritz, those are three good names. They're, good for them. All three guys getting those 2 wins out of the way right away and getting into the last 64th, undefeated. That's pretty strong for them out of the gate.
Early, big story yesterday, Mike. Niels going out against Joao.
Yeah.
Well, we know he's a great European player. Look, we talk about Mosconi Cup the entire year, Mike, and when we mention guys like a Moritz or a Jonas or a Max, we always talk about them in terms of where they are in the Mosconi Cup rankings. Niels was in number 4 position, Mike, and big letdown, but going out in that round, Mike.
Yeah, no, that's a big, big disappointment for him. That kind of, kind of puts the kibosh on him almost to a certain extent, unless he wins one of these other events, right? I mean,
it does almost feel like it almost feels like the year's almost over, because of how much you got to go and make up for coming short in that round in this tournament where prize funds are so different compared to everywhere else.
So lopsided, yeah, so lopsided. So it was too bad to see. I mean, he went 2 and out. Ralph went 2 and out. There's some pretty decent names that are out already, but now we're starting to get into the business end of it. It's going to be pretty exciting.
I love rooting for Niels. He's an easy guy to go and get behind. Obviously his Mosconi Cup pedigree and just his, he's a former world champion. He beat Albin years ago to get his last World 9-ball championship. The guy's so decorated and a great ambassador for the game. He made a mention in his post yesterday, Mike, regarding the times, and I kind of just want to get your thoughts on that. They're starting at 11 o'clock. They're starting around, or at least yesterday they were starting around at 11 o'clock in a world championship, Mike.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, you've got the scheduling. I wasn't sure why they. To me, it all kind of comes back to them starting the first day at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. That they were just making up for that first day.
Right, and I know you want to start out strong, big, but the first day. Listen, you're not going to get a big crowd physically, whether you do it at 10 o'clock in the morning or at 7 o'clock at night. I don't know whether you need to try to play up the pomp and circumstance, on the opening night, because you just don't get the response from the people there. So use the whole first day, to me, makes more sense. As far as 11 o'clock at night, that's a little bit, that's a little bit late. I'm trying to look and see when his first match was yesterday. Because if you started at 10 o'clock in the morning and then had one at 11 o'clock at night, that's a problem. But I don't think they're really starting anything until 4 in the afternoon, right? Isn't that the first round, or is it 2:30? 2:30, 4, 5 o'clock. So you're not starting them in the morning. You're not starting them before noon. So the equivalent to me would be, golf tournaments. You're teeing off at 8 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, in golf,
you don't see Phil Mickelson. Yeah. You don't see Phil Mickelson bitching and moaning about starting at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So it comes with the territory. It's what you got to do. Like I said, it'd be different to me if Niels had a 10:30 in the morning match and then had 11 o'clock at night and then had to come back and play 10:30 next morning. But as long as you've kind of spaced those out a little bit, listen, you play when the schedule says you play.
Communication is key, Mike, and that's the part where I'm a little on the fence. If that expectation was set earlier on, and listen, you're not in that position if you don't lose the opening round, so there's that. And don't get me wrong, he had a tough draw. Roland's no walk in the park, especially an opening round of a world championship, beating facing a Filipino who's got the skill set that Roland does. But if that expectation was set, then listen, you spend the better part of the year traveling the world in different time zones. You know what you have to do in order to get your body and your mind comfortable to playing at awkward times. Niels is one of those players where he'll only be playing the more professional events, right? He's not playing here in the States, starting a round at 1 a.m. or anything like you'll find at whatever bar. That's a weekend tournament, So, but again, for me, it's just a matter of what that expectation is. Was definitely surprising, but a bit like it felt like a punch in the gut because I'm rooting for Niels. I was rooting for him to at least have a puncher's chance to like further solidify his position in the European rankings.
Get closer to that spot.
Yeah. Whereas
No, that would have been great.
It's like, some other players.
Yeah, now it's
Yeah, no, it's going to be tough sledding. Some other players, Mike, that I'm taking a look at here. Victor with 2 grindy matches to get through into singles. I know they both kind of went the distance or close to it. Wojciech, a former world champion, can't help but root for Wu Kun Lin, just given his relationship with Chang and what that story would be like if he can make a great run, Mike. But man, it's just so many Filipinos, Mike.
Victor and Wojciech, the only 2 Poles who went through first 2 rounds. I think they've got 3 more on the loser's side. But they were the 2 deepest runs for the Poles last year. So
boy, let me tell you, Mike, our predictions could not have gone any worse. At least mine could not have gone any worse. I had the Poles going deep, right? Epic fail, well, at least to this point, right? And then I had the Filipino ones were low hanging fruit, because there was just so many of them, and we know their talent. But man, that seems like a really big letdown, especially if these guys can't get through. Look, Victor's a question mark still, and I'm rooting for the guy, but it's only going to get more packed with pressure. The kid's got to learn to close with authority. You know what I mean? He's great at the beginning, but if it starts getting, nip and tuck, that's when the other opponent might have a little bit of an edge. But man, there's so many other dangerous guys. Mike, Tikon, Naoki, or like you mentioned Mickey, who's like sneaky, never really gets any respect, but he's always hanging around. He's always deep in every single thing that he plays in. And he's another one of these guys who's looking to follow up last year's Mosconi Cup run with another great performance, Mike. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, it's a lot of the usual suspects, but on the one loss side, Mike, we mentioned Niels going out. SVB loses in the opening round. That was a huge.
A lot of Americans on the one loss side.
Mike, give me the realistic. Like, listen,
a lot of Americans on the 2 loss side too.
Mike, it's a little embarrassing. It's a lot embarrassing. Okay, as a whole, it's like Shane looked like he was 41, in that match. And Federer, I know he's like the adopted son, but it's kind of hard for me to get on that like USA bandwagon for him. It's like, man, if it wasn't for Federer,
it's not, he doesn't scream Uncle Sam. So you're looking at, well, Lucas is still, and he's got a shot. He's got Misko, which is not going to be an easy task. Oscar's losing to Conrad right now, and Tyler's ahead of Petri Makinen. Max still plays today.
And Max was in a good spot. I thought like he was up 4-1 on Jason, which was a big shock, even just through 5 games. But there's a lot of big names, Mike, that are fighting to stay alive. Albin has got to be a massive shock, down 6-1. To say, no disrespect to her, she's a great player, but you would have expected a much different matchup, at least heading into it. Delgado, SVB, and Copigny, Mike, a rematch of a world championship from, what was it, like 10 years ago, and now they're one of them is going to be out of this tournament, Mike, before single elimination.
Yeah, that's amazing. One of them not going to make the 64. So that's tough. That's a tough one there.
PS loses early on, I think, to a Vietnamese player, strong Vietnamese player, and he had a great comeback, but he's another one of these Europeans where 6 months in, and that's really for me been another storyline. It's like these guys who are in that, who like they're not the they're not the fillers and Shaws and big Mosconi Cup names where it's like you're 6 months in, but this
Right.
is where you're going to measure up. This is the tournament where you can really make a splash. And guys like Pius, Jonas, again, they're still in, but it's like you would have felt a lot more comfortable given their position had they've already been in through 64, and now there's a chance they may not even make it through to single, Mike.
Right. Well, PS has Alex, so that'll be a tough chore for him.
Alex, I don't know how to gauge
there's
Alex,
a
Mike.
couple
It's
other
like
guys.
he was. I think in his last match he lost Hill. I kind of thought he was a bit of an underdog in that matchup, but he's got like a sneaky 9-ball break, and he's got the experience, right? Way more than Pius does.
Yeah, sure.
But it's like I don't know. I couldn't tell you where he's going to finish at, Mike. He may end up in the final 8, or he may end up going out before single. You know what I mean? I literally got no clue how this is going to finish out.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, it's going to be interesting to see for sure. Who does yeah, so I'm looking at the other American players. I'm looking at poor Sam Henderson, draws Shane in the first round, wins his first match in the losers bracket, and gets yapped for his
And kudos to Sam because he came from behind to win in that loser round match. But I agree with you. That's brutal. Drawing Federer and then following that up to qualify, you got to face Yap. Like, I mean, goddamn, how much more tough a draw could you have if you're the kid? You know what I mean?
For one, for one, we have to remember too. This is 128 players, not 256.
Right.
So, shit gets real a lot faster here than it does in the 256. So,
well, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
So just
Mike,
you're gonna have to come out of the gate swinging hard if you only have 2 chances in 3 matches to get to the final 64. So,
Mike,
not a lot
Filler
of
loses.
You only get 2 out of 3.
Not at all. And look, if this next matchup that I'm gonna bring up here is any indication, you got Filler against Gerson for a chance to stay alive. Look, Mike, I know Filler is Filler.
10:30 at night.
Yeah.
On table 1000.
Yeah, they're sending him to the bar down the street to go and start that one at 2 a.m. Right? Yeah. What do you think?
They're playing down at the bar in downtown.
How big would it be if Filler doesn't qualify for single elimination, Mike? And what are the chances?
It wouldn't make my predictions look good.
No, look, Gerson is more than capable. We saw that at Derby, and I know it's apples and oranges.
This is the type of spot where Gerson's the most dangerous too. Gerson's really dangerous in this kind of spot where he's got someone he knows has pressure on him. He can kind of grind a little bit. He can kind of frustrate the guy a little bit, and yeah, it's gonna be an interesting match to watch. I think Josh has to come out of that one fast and drill some holes in it really fast to keep from that one getting really dicey.
They both have this very loose style, which I just love watching. When it comes to exciting pool players, like both of them, I love seeing them at the table. With Josh, it's he's going to clean up in probably 33 seconds, and Gerson, you never know if he's going to run out in about 45 or if he's going to jaw up the 6-ball because he's got this real unorthodox stroke to him. You know what I mean? But for me, Mike, that's box office. That's fireworks. I don't know where they're going to be at. I hope they are going to be on TV table because that's a really big matchup and a lot of storylines there. The Latin Americans got such a strong untapped fan base, and you can see that by if you look at some of the social media pages of the Latin American pool community. There's a lot of opportunity there, and so a guy like Gerson waves that flag. I would have loved to have seen a player like a Ruben Bautista get in this tournament. I know he's dealing with some political issues and things like that. But it's kind of hard for me to say who I'm rooting for here, Mike. I think the fans are going to be the big winner no matter what. But yeah, Filler and Gerson, that's going to be interesting. Down below that, Mike, you got Feliciano X44. He's an interesting character in his own right. I like Mike, man. And he's playing Stefan Kasper, who is the European, I think, 8-ball champion. That one's going to be interesting. Dennis came off a Hill loss. Mike, he's fighting to stay alive as well. And then after that, it's kind of, let me see. There's not really Mario He on one loss side. That's kind of, and he was on the verge of going out in this tournament, Mike. Like I think in the last round, like he was right at the edge there. Let me see who else. Daniel Maciel, like you mentioned, Alexa. He started off a little bit slow, but he's getting along in there, up 8-2. What are some of the other things?
What happened to our number? What happened to our top Fargo ranked
Amir?
guy?
Or which one? Oh, so yeah. Amir's he's got Van Leer up to stay alive. So and I've been following his scores to kind of see where, like, I still don't know how well he really plays, like when it comes to the eye test. You know what I mean? And so again, we follow Fargo right. He's been playing this tournament tough. I couldn't tell you if I think he's going to get into, like I said, the final 16 or if he's going to fizzle out in this one, you know? So, he's just kind of an enigma for me, Mike, at this point, without seeing him really measure up. Like, if I need more sample size. Does that make sense?
Was his match against Roland on TV?
He's playing Van Leer in single.
No, his match against Roland, was that on TV?
No, I don't think so. I don't believe so. I could be wrong. If it was, I mean, there's a good chance it wasn't streamed either way. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, it's been a fun first couple of days. But I tell you what, Mike, especially considering the fact that the stream is up to par now and everything else, like I'm super pumped heading into the next couple of days, Mike. Single elimination.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun rest.
Huge money on the line. Kind of given the landscape of where we're at, Mike, guys who are still on one loss side and guys who have qualified, who's a player that you fancy now after 2 days of the World Championship to make a run? Give me like an obvious and then maybe a not so obvious.
Well, to me, obvious is Chua. I mean, he's just I don't think he's missed a ball in 2 days. Not so obvious. Well, I don't know. That's, trying to spin through these. All I see is Filipinos.
Yeah, no kidding. Look, I agree with you in terms of Chua. Like, it's so easy to get behind like that flavor of the day.
Yeah, not obvious. I like Kwok too. I like the way he's playing. I like his attitude.
That's a great pick, Mike. That's a really good pick. And like we mentioned to start the show, being able to pull those positives in solid, like in early rounds, right? And it's easy if you can get your wheels greased playing against like a lesser opponent, but to play as fluidly and as consistently and as strong as he did, given the opponents that he's faced, it's a pretty strong showing from Wong, Mike, for sure. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, the Chua one, I'm with you 100%, Mike. I mean, that guy looks scary, and he obviously has experience. I think he makes really smart choices. He was in the semifinal of this tournament last year. He's got so much other accomplishments under his belt after that, which is even crazier to think about, right?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Since then, he's done really well. So he's built off it. He's not resting.
Yeah. And he's been grinding, Mike. He's been traveling. He's been staying in it. I know he mentioned the success that he had in the night shop, but that guy's going to be really tough to beat. It's going to be really interesting to see how, first of all, how these round of matchups today finish out, and secondly, and more importantly, how the draw is going to fare, because there can be some massive names that are going to be matching up in the round of 64 once the draw is done. I'm assuming a little later on, this evening. So, but to me, Mike, it's Team Philippines or bust, if I'm being honest with you. And I know that
Team Philippines is in a team. I just hope that they don't end up playing each other all in the round of 64. Although, if 10 of them get through, 10 of them won't be faced each other because they'll get that seeded spot in the final 64, right?
Well, I think they would stay so
So
winners would stay in their same position where they're at in the bracket, but then they'll get a loser drawn into them. Is that right?
that I don't know. I don't know. I know that they won't that the winners through the first two rounds won't play each other in the round of 64. I don't know if they
Right.
shuffle
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll be
yeah,
interesting to see, that's for sure, and especially given the chaos that was the first couple of days, and more importantly, how this afternoon's going to go. It just really makes for must see TV, Mike. Look,
it is.
you got a bunch of go ahead.
No, I was just saying the other side of it is that because there's so many big names in the loser side, there's going to be some final 16 players who are going to face each other in the round of 64 and the round of 32. So there's going
Oh
to
yeah,
be some big names out, early. So that's one thing here.
well, it's such a catch-22, right? It's like if you're a guy who hasn't been in that position, like let's say maybe an Uski type player, or just kind of going through it like the end, right? Like I know he's got solid wins early on, but it's like if you're gonna tell me I'm giving you a rematch with SVB in single elimination, I'm still taking SVB, because of that experience,
Yeah,
and
yeah, sure.
I've seen how one guy can handle immense pressure versus another. And when you don't have that safety net of having another barrel underneath you, I have
Right.
a much bigger sample size to pull from when it comes to some of these guys. And even a guy like, look, Josh Kopinyi, whoever, you know what I mean? It's like some of these other guys are still unproven. Look, Loho Sum, we hadn't seen him since the World Pool Masters a few years ago, and he's through to single elimination already. So like, even though everyone will say like the
Yeah,
politically correct things, right? Like, oh, it's a world championship, anybody can beat anybody. But it's like, don't get me wrong, some of these guys are really hoping they match up with some of these other guys that are on there, and the reverse side of it is some of those guys through single are not going to want to face some of the big guns coming out of the one loss side. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. No, no, not at all.
it,
Not at all. Loho Sum gets his way through the first two rounds into single elimination and draws a filler. It's like, how'd that work
I,
out?
yeah, no kidding. And this is where like I love the volatility in terms of what pool can be from a betting standpoint, Mike. Like the first two rounds show how exciting and dynamic that it can be. And if you can incorporate that gambling aspect and really get the degenerates involved into it, I think you can grow it to a much bigger standpoint. And like for me, this is what I see in like tennis, Mike, because in tennis you'll have like bigger names, and for the most part, the names tend to rise to the end. But it's like, man, there's certain tournaments where it can really go either way through the first few rounds, and that's what pool is as well, So if there's and there's so many ways to handicap it as well, where I think it can be fun, whether it's games or whatever, So um,
You're saying degenerates are the key to the future of the sport.
I think they're the key to the future of all sports, and so like the gambling side of it is just is so massive for me, Mike, and don't get me wrong, I can appreciate the purity of it as well, but if we can bring in that fan base, and given how crazy that pool can be, it's like, man, it can really be box office and fireworks and getting casinos involved and all
Yeah,
these things,
huge.
So um Federer's still in, obviously. Shaw, we got a bunch of big guns. Koping Chung as well, Mike. A lot of guys that we haven't really talked about at all. Carlo Beato, Bernie coming off a
Yeah,
big win off a Co. So many things so many players that we know they have a great skill set. We haven't seen them against big names, but now you're starting to see how they can measure up, and it's really going to be dynamic in the next 2 days, Mike. Just seeing how pressure affects the way that some of these guys play. When I had Chua on to start the like before the tournament, he mentioned about money games. And he was like, I've been saying, some of these guys to get away from playing money games and just focus on tournaments and the professional side of it. But like for me, Mike, the fact that a lot of these guys, in terms of the Filipinos, have dealt with pressure since they were so young, gambling and playing money games, it really I think for me, it favors them going forward, because some of these Europeans, they haven't had that kind of pressure, facing them time after time after time, in terms of like big leaps of money, so, um, so many different ways that you can kind of dissect all the guys who are left here, Mike.
Yeah, no, it's the storylines they're gonna change every round, and they're gonna get better every round. Depending on how the cards fall. So it's gonna be a lot of fun for sure. Meanwhile, our girls up 8-2 on
Oh,
Alabama.
Mike, what is going on here?
Who's
That's
well, it was 6-2, and Alvin broke, and after he cut it to 6-2, broke, and then missed the two ball up in the corner, and you could just kind of tell by the way he stood there that he just wanted to go break a cue.
When I saw that matchup being advertised on TV table, I didn't know how to take it, because I get the positioning of it. But for her to go and have a win on TV table, assuming that she follows through, I know she's up 8-2. For her to have a win against a guy as decorated as Albin Ocean, I mean,
Yeah,
you want to talk about just complete chaos and good on her, And if I'm one of these boys in through already, be careful what you wish for if you end up drawing her, because she's shown that she's got some killer
yeah,
firepower, and she ain't rattling, you know. I think in her opening round TV table matchup, she had like 3 breaking runs, something like that, Mike. So it's
yeah. She
it's
did.
like that was better than majority of the field, just that alone, so you follow that up with a win over Albin. It's like, man, and this is what I mean, like, imagine what the money line would have been on that matchup, Mike. you know
Yeah,
she would have probably at least been a 3-1 underdog in that one, you know so lot of stuff to be excited about, Mike. Are you going to be watching it all? Are you going to be working? What's your plans for the next few days?
uh, next couple of days, I'll definitely be watching next couple of days.
Look, we'll post the draw once it
Yeah,
comes out a little later on this evening. I'm going to go back to watching some more pool because it seems like there's just fireworks all over the
someone did
place.
just post.
What's that?
Someone did just post. What happens if What happens if Sale wins and Robbie draws her in the round of 64?
Well, that Pia and Josh match, I think, has the most views out of any pool match on the Matchroom Pool YouTube page. You know, so, and look, I
Yeah,
I know, like, pool fans are real unique in the sense of, like, they're always pulling for these things that they think are going to save pool. Like, this might save pool. That might save pool. Look, a storyline like Sale could really give a boost to pool if she goes and continues that run. I firmly believe that, Mike, because it checks
right.
off so many boxes, where you can have a much different audience tuning in to go and watch. Plus, look, the being an Asian player as well, that's going to do well in terms of ratings. So many different ways to kind of look at it. Um, but that would be pretty epic if it's Robbie versus Sale in that one. I'm I might take her on a betting line, Mike. I'm not gonna lie to you. So, all right, Mike, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, no, I think we covered most of it.
Let us know in the chat who you guys have meeting up in the finals. I know a lot of things kind of up in the air right now, but it'll be an exciting last couple of days of the World Championships. I'm going to be tuned in from start to finish, so make sure and keep your notifications on. I might do a show tonight, Mike. For sure, we'll do something tomorrow. We'll kind of take a look and see where everything's at. And big shout out to all of our sponsors who help make the show possible. So you guys enjoy the